So, one of the things that you're asked to do in this final week is to think through your philosophy of student ministry and attempt to define that pretty clearly. If you ever do a job application for pastoral position, student ministry position, you're likely to get this question on an application. What's your philosophy of ministry? And in that question, we're asking like, what fundamental beliefs define uh, who you are and how you will lead this respective ministry in the church. And we all have orienting philosophies about all of life. We have philosophy of how we spend our money, savings. We have a philosophy of marriage. We have a philosophy of parenting. These are core fundamental beliefs that drive and define our actions. And often these philosophies, these defining core beliefs, are at a more core level even than what we say. So for example, if you are a husband who says, "My philosophy is that my most important role is to love my wife and care for my children." Okay, well, that's an orienting philosophy. That's a core belief. But if as a husband you work 90 hours at a business, you're never home, you hang out with your buddies in the evenings, you don't care for your wife, you never go on a date, you never go throw baseball in the backyard with your son. Well, your actions actually don't match up with that philosophy. Your philosophy is actually different. Your philosophy says, my family comes after all of these other things that I want to do. So what's important is not that you have a philosophy. You actually have one. Even before this class started, you have some fundamental core beliefs that shape how you view ministry and how you view care for students. What's important is that you're able to articulate those, and then you're able to force yourself to match those up with your actions. So, for example, if you say, one of my philosophies of student ministry is that the most important thing um, for healthy student ministry is healthy families. Okay, that's a core belief. That's a core philosophy. But then, if in your application, everything that you do within student ministry separates families from one another, teaches students without regard for their families, well, then it doesn't. Your beliefs don't match. Your actions don't match up with that core belief. But if, on the other hand, you say, well, the most important thing is healthy families, then as a student pastor, you might want to lead and facilitate a marriage conference. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with student ministry, right? Well, wrong, actually. For a student pastor to do a marriage conference that seeks to enrich families um, actually has everything to do with student ministry. Maybe the most important thing you can do. Because as marriages are healthy, well, then in turn, their love for their kids is going to grow exponentially, and their ability to disciple them well is going to grow exponentially. So, in this week, what I want you to do is seek to define some of these core operating beliefs and then work to match those up with key application points on the back end. Now, another point's worth making. So, we've held up these models of student ministry through the class. It's a good way of orienting ourselves to various views of student ministry, but as many of you have stated, as we've looked at these models, many of them feel a bit exaggerated. They take a really good thing and maybe they take it 3 steps too far. That's common in every area of life, every ministry philosophy. Some of you may walk away from this class saying, there's one of these views that really articulates who I am and what I believe is true for student ministry. Well, great. Others of you, and I would believe probably more common, are going to say, well, there's certain ones, or maybe there is a one that I tend to align with. I tend to find myself more in the D6 camp or more in the Reformed camp. That tends to be where I want to place my feet, but there are things that I don't like about it, or there are weaknesses, and I want to pull from this or this or this. Okay. So that's good and actually demonstrates healthy thought and interaction. None of these models in their pure form perhaps even express what I would articulate as a philosophy of ministry for students. But there are certain views that tend to give me some orientation, and then I can take aspects from other views. So as you're articulating that, I would encourage you as you're articulating your own view, I would encourage you to do the hard work of figuring out, okay, where do I place my feet? What aspects of these other views do I need to integrate based on my classmates' comments about the weaknesses of some of these models? How can I integrate them into a coherent whole in a way that if somebody were to ask me in an elevator, 1 minute, I got 1 minute to say, why do I do student ministry? Why do I think it matters? What are my core guiding beliefs? That I could articulate really quickly. Here are some things that really drive and orient all I do as a student leader. So that's what I'm after this week. Hope you guys crush it. Look forward to reading your reflections.